Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome back. As you can see, Sam liked it so much that he's come back.
Second round.
Second round. Of course, there'll be more. Presbytera will be back next week, and then we've got another special guest coming in February.
Who?
So Johnny Pappas is coming back.
Good.
We've now yesterday, Saints-wise, name days, we had Anthony, Saint Anthony.
Yes.
Today we have
Who do we have today?
Athanasius.
That's right.
So
it is.
Saint Athanasius.
Yes.
I know you've got a bunch of Athanasis.
Yep.
You know
Yep.
you know. So
that's right.
Before 12 o'clock, you might send them a text.
Yeah, I do have to.
Chronia Pola to my seminarian friend, Father Athanasios Charos, who is the priest and dean of the Cathedral of St. Nicholas in Tarpon Springs.
Oh, wow. All right.
So Chronia Pola to him. And tomorrow
is Agios Ephthemios. Saint
okay.
Ephthemio. Yeah.
And so you've got a few Ephthemioses in your family.
Yes.
At least two that I know of.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's kind of like a parade of saints, and all big.
It's a nice time of the
names.
year.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This is awesome. As you can see, it's almost there. So this is my handbook for catechumens.
So So you're the writer, huh?
I'm the
Cool.
I'm the writer. So I've been
which
talking
volume
about
is
this. No, this is just volume 1. It's the first
Volume 1. Okay. All right. Cool.
The first volume. And so I've been working on this for a number of years, and it's basically the catechumen class that I've been doing for people over the years. Now, notice the title.
Handbook for Orthodox catechumens.
You know what that means? That means that as a mechanical engineer, I cannot write a novel. Okay, everything has to be a handbook. That's the only thing I know, right? Okay, so that's what this is. This is more of kind of like a reference book, meaning that I tried to put in here not the history of the church, because there's a ton of books on the history of the church. I mean, you can go anywhere and find, and much better authors than me can tell a great story. But what this is when you come into the church as a newbie, let's call you a newbie, right? We're pretty scary. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on at the liturgy. There's a lot of traditions that we have, both capital T and small t, And so what I try to do with this is talk about a little bit about the structure of the church, meaning that how are we different from the Catholic Church, because a lot of people don't know that. Mm-hmm. And then what are our traditions, capital T, and then what are our small, Greek traditions, Romanian traditions, something like that.
So it's an engineer's manual for success
in the Orthodox Church.
That's
Church. Exactly what it is.
Awesome.
So right now, I've got the book out for review. I've asked a couple of my priest friends to just take a look at it. Make sure that I'm not I'm not a heretical author here, and so I'm hoping that within a month or so we'll have this available. So there we go. That's
awesome.
That's my thing there.
Very cool.
You'll get a signed copy, man.
Can I get a signed copy? I was just going to ask for it. Are we going to do a book signing?
That's right.
After liturgy one day?
That's when that's what I should. No, I don't want to take that away from Dr. Jeannie. Could you imagine? Dr. Jeannie's gives her presentation in April. She's got her book, and I'm like, get out of here, sign my book.
You should do it on the same day.
On the same day.
You should sign each other's books.
Sign each other's books. There we go. We should do that. So all right. So there's that. I don't know what else you got going on.
Well, we have some questions from last week.
Okay.
We have some questions from last week. Dimo's not gonna announce them because
he's not here.
No, Dionysia, she ripped out his tongue.
Ooh.
He criticized her cooking.
Cooking and whew,
yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah,
man.
That's it. You see how fast?
Applying good, good Greek punishment, man.
This is a pre-recorded message that I did before my tongue was ripped out. I just have a sore throat. Her cooking is decent.
Whoa, man! I don't even want to touch that, man.
No, Decently.
I'm not
excellent.
even gonna bring that up
Yo,
next time I
geez.
see you.
Her cooking is great.
Okay. So the first question we have is from Migs. How did the Ethiopian Church choose their canons, and how come they have more books?
So actually, they have. If you look at numbers, I mean, the main difference typically is in the New Testament books, but actually, they have the Protestants have 39, the Catholics have 52 of Old Testament, and we have 56, and the Ethiopians have a total of 81 books. 35 of those are the New Testament versus the 27.
Okay.
So 35 minus 80 is
45.
no.
81 minus 35 is 46.
46.
Yep.
All right. And some of those books now are the same what the Protestants would call the apocryphal books. So we share a lot of those same books, but and I'm still doing a little bit of research on what the origins are. But I can speak to not so much the Old Testament books, but on the New Testament books, a lot of the writings that they've accepted in there are books that were published by non-apostles. Okay, so we typically take the books of the New Testament as the four Gospels, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now I know that Mark wasn't an apostle, but he was narrated to from St. Peter. All right. And then we have St. Paul, right, who we can consider an apostle. So he wrote many of the epistles that we read.
Yep.
But there were writings after that. One of the most famous writings that we have is the Didache, which was the teaching of the 12 apostles. And so and they've also got some of the early fathers. They've got Saint Clement. They've got let me see. Wait a minute. The book of Saint Clement, the books of Dominos, and then there are some that are particular to that Ethiopian region. And because there are those writings help us to understand our faith. So we don't have them included, like the Didaskalia, the Didache. We don't have it in our canon, but we have it as something good for reading. Theologumena, we say. All right. So what the Ethiopians have done is said no. Not only are the regular Gospels that we would consider valid, but also here are the teachings that help us to apply what is in the Gospels. That's what the Holy Fathers did, right? Is they interpreted a lot of what the Gospels meant.
Interesting.
So they include that. All right. So like I said, that's kind of what the source was for the New Testament. I just got to do a little bit more work on how they got some of the Old Testament books. Most of the Old Testament books are the same. Like I said, we have 52, they have 46, but there's a couple of books that are particular to their region that I'm not necessarily familiar with, such as rather than the Wisdom of Solomon, they have the Tibid, and they have the Tigzats, so particular to their region.
Right.
How they entered in, I've got to do a little more research on that.
Okay, cool. The second question is from Santa Man 1. Isn't the Ethiopian Church in the Oriental Orthodox community?
And so they are considered to be in the Oriental Orthodox community, yes.
Ray Kokinos, I think this one may be cut off a little bit. Maybe comment/question. English services. My parish flourishes. What are your thoughts? Maybe in more so the services in full-on English than in a mix of Greek and English.
So wait a minute. So say the question again then.
they're making a statement that their services are in English and that it flourishes. I think it was during a back and forth about whether or not services are just in Greek or services are mixed, and they're making a statement that theirs is English and it flourishes. If you have any comments on that.
Yeah, I do. I mean, look, my last two parishes have said the exact same thing. Is Father, the reason that the kids aren't coming is because you're speaking Greek and they don't understand it, so they're not coming. Okay, that stop you?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. And some of the the one young gentleman, Thomas.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Thomas is he's Dutch. He's from the Netherlands.
Dutch. He's
okay.
like no Greek whatsoever.
No Greek whatsoever. Yeah. And he appreciated the fact that the Greek was preserved. Now, in America, except for very, very few places, I mean, maybe one or two, I don't see that it is proper to have no English in America. And an Orthodox Church should be speaking
the language of the people.
The language of the people. Now, the reason I'm saying just maybe a few is, for example, here we have the Romanian Church, and all of them came. They're this new generation that's just come. Okay, so they don't really speak English, so Romanian has to be the language. All right, the Ukrainian Church. When I went there, all of the laity was speaking Ukrainian, so those make sense. Okay, but in the Greek Archdiocese, there is no reason for a parish to be all Greek. But at the same token, take our parish for example. We have a population here that is comfortable, and that it speaks to them when they hear it in Greek.
Yeah, I mean, we look, for every service, especially during matins, it's mostly, if not all, heavily dependent on Greek-speaking people, right? And then as the Divine Liturgy starts, more people, flow in where, okay, they don't know Greek. Right? So, and there are some weeks where it's just like all Greek people, and then there are some weeks where it's just a healthy mix of everyone. Mm-hmm. And I think with our parish, we cater to that by just even looking at who's in the crowd. So they may be, if it's mostly Greek, we do a lot of the service in mostly Greek.
Right.
And if it's a healthy mix of Greeks and non-Greeks, we do it mostly in English. Yeah. And I think we're pretty cognizant of that. And literally, I mean, I will transition slowly. The Orthros will be mostly in Greek, and then as we start the liturgy, I'll transition more and more to English, so that by the end of the service, it's almost like 80% English. So, like the bishop says, we can accommodate just by turning around and looking at who's in the pews, right? Yep. We have a super chat from Diane. Thank you. She asks, why should not people learn Greek?
Okay, so I get confused on the double negatives. So she's saying,
why shouldn't people learn Greek?
Which means that she's in favor of it. Like, they should learn Greek, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and the bishop would agree with that statement, because if you don't, and maybe you don't have to learn modern Greek, because biblical Greek and modern Greek are different. Okay, not totally different, but they're different. But if you don't know the language that something was written in, then you are a prisoner of the translator.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because there, just like in English, there are meanings of things that come across to a native Greek speaker.
Yes.
That he picks up that isn't well expressed in English. Okay. But they're equally so if I'm trying to express a certain American custom and idea. I can't find exactly the Greek word that I'm looking for. Okay, I mean, we all have our, right? So if you want to know what it says, then you need to know the language it was written in. And it just happens to have been written in Greek.
Yep.
Okay, that's why you learn Greek. I mean, if it was written in Hebrew, then we'd all be learning Hebrew,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So it is what it is. So I've seen too many times, and we've brought it up in Bible study many, many times, where you read the English translation, but then you read the Greek, and they're not the same. And to be able to discern that, you gotta know the language.
I like that. Prisoner of being a
translator.
prisoner of the translator in the translation. Okay. Thank you. Let's see. Teresa Clancy asks, "Are there Masons in the Greek Orthodox Church?" We were just talking about.
No? Do you have Masons in your family?
No.
I mean, and they've heard me say this before. Pretty much every male in my family was a Mason. My father, my grandfather, my uncle, my other grandfather, they were all Masons. It's what you did at that time. And, and the Orthodox Church in America can huff and puff all day long about how Masons, are a secret religion, this and that, but that's not gonna stop them. So do we have Masons in the church, in the Orthodox Church of America? You better believe we do. All right. So Masonry is alive and well in America, and it does a lot of good things. Okay.
But...
Okay, but it's a secretive organization. I get that. So, but I wasn't about to call my dad and my grandfather a heretic, and deny them communion based on that. Okay,
yeah.
So,
but it's not like the priests also preach to join these Masonic.
in the
In the
30s
old
and 40s,
in the old days,
40s,
but not,
they were
not
Masons.
anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
No.
It's something that they would discourage nowadays.
Not discouraged. They would say you cannot be. Not. It's more than just a discouraging. But for older people, let's say my age and below, you're not changing them. If they were a Mason, they're
pretty
Mason.
pretty stubborn. Yeah.
Oops,
User BT9, it's very random. Asks, "Are we allowed as Greek Orthodox to do confession to God in the privacy of our own home?" So maybe like two things to this. Are you able, as a priest, to go to a person's home for confession? And then the second question is, obviously, maybe the Protestant way of thinking, like, can't I just do confession to God in the privacy of my own home?
All right, so two good questions. Let's go with the first one. That's the easier one. Is typically sacraments must be conducted in the church, right? Baptism, wedding, confession, Holy Eucharist. Now, there are exceptions, right? So unction, I can go to your home and I can do an unction service there. I can do an air baptism if I go to the hospital if there's possible death. So there are some exceptions, but sacraments must be done in the church, okay? And that includes confession. That's part one. Part two is, can you confess your sins to God? In the Orthodox Church, the answer is not really. Okay. Now, why I say not really is because the Orthodox Church doesn't want to say you can't pray privately to God, right? Because Jesus does say, and go into your corner and close the door and pray to your Heavenly Father in secret. He does say that, okay? But that's not the fullness of confession, because the fullness of confession is confessing the sins, the priest discussing why that's an issue, and then the absolution. So all you're getting is the confession. You're not getting the penance, and penance is not a bad word. Penance is, we've had confession,
right?
We talk about, is this a sin? Why is this a sin? We discuss that.
There's like a lot of spiritual, physical, and mental treatment that goes along with when you say penance. It's more of a treatment of the sin, because if you let the sin fester, like it's a wound, right?
It's a wound. It's absolutely right.
And if you have it fester, it'll spread out and grow and get worse.
Like cancer, right? Yeah.
Like cancer,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And then also I'd like to ask, didn't the apostles do confession themselves in that sense? Perform the mystery of confession.
100%. I mean, Saint James even talks about the idea of confession. About going, and again, I can't remember the exact lines, but to the idea of go and confess to the priest. And when Jesus healed the lepers, right? Okay, what did he tell them to do? Go back
to the priests.
Go back to the priests, right? He didn't say, okay, you're healed. He says, go back to the priests. He honored what at the church or the temple, right? What the law said. Okay, so he honored that. So we follow that same pattern. And if we look at the prayer, Jesus instituted that. So if we look at the prayer that I read, okay. My spiritual child, who has confessed to me, a humble person, I have no power on earth to forgive sins, but God alone. But through that divinely spoken words, which means Jesus, right? Okay. The Lord Jesus Christ said, whosever sins you remit, they're remitted. Whosever sins you retain, they're retained. We're emboldened to say. He said that to the apostles. My priesthood is through apostolic succession. So what applies for them applies for me. He didn't give this to just
everyone.
Anyone.
He only gave it to the apostles.
To his apostles.
Okay. Yeah, that was good. Inksword 6029 asks, do you say and the Son? Do you say quotation and the Son and quotation in the belly or on the right shoulder? I heard someone say right because the Son is seated on the right hand of the Father. I think he's referring to when we do the cross.
Right. Oh, when we do during the creed?
No. When we do the cross, because when I think it's personally, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I think it's the pace that you're saying in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit is the same pace as you're doing the cross.
Right.
I don't think that the head is the Father, the belly is the Son, and the right shoulder and the left shoulder are the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Yeah. I think,
I mean, all we're making, as St. John Chrysostom would say, is we're making the sign of the cross. Right. Okay. So we don't want to get overly symbolic and, like you said, connect this to Jesus only, and because the Father's not just about the mind, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So and we're as you said, body, soul, spirit, right? So we're all three. So it's not like we can divide up each one of them into pieces, right?
Right.
Like the Holy Trinity.
Like the Holy Trinity.
Right.
Exactly.
Actually, one of the things that I liked, one of the explanations, not only when we touch our belly, having Christ in us, but also maybe could it be also a remembrance of Jesus Christ being in the womb of the Theotokos? I'm not trying to assign any overly, but it is something to remember
It's a remembrance. I mean,
right.
And again, we can just think of it as the body of Christ, right? I mean, it's many things that it could be, but we don't want to be overly American in the idea that it only has one meaning, right?
Yes.
Everything has just one meaning, right?
Yes.
Got to be a little more Greek, where we can apply different meanings. It's okay.
Rebecca Shantz asks, regarding a recent topic, how many people on average in any given year would you have to exclude from attending church due to immoral behavior or wrong belief?
I assume this is in regards to our short, which came out yesterday.
Oh, the excommunicated?
Well, truth be told, nobody, including myself, would be in church, period. Right? If she's talking about immoral behavior and sin, and if we define it from not just a Ten Commandments standpoint, if we define it within an Orthodox idea, okay, immoral behavior includes things like gossiping, cursing, laziness, eating too much. So if we're going to apply that standard, nobody, including the priest, can show up to liturgy.
And God himself, God himself said, lying is an abomination.
Lying.
to lying, right? I've lied.
Right.
I hope I don't continue to lie, but
Abomination.
yeah, I am an abomination.
So, and in fact, this is why, okay,
The liturgy service book.
the liturgy service book, okay. If you read the prayers speak to that. They say, okay, do not spurn the sinner, but set repentance as a way of salvation. You have deemed us, your lowly and undeserving servants, worthy to stand before you at this hour before your holy altar. And will you accept from our lips, we the sinners, the thrice holy hymn, and look graciously upon us? So that acknowledges that we're not worthy to stand before the table.
So if you can excommunicate for immoral behavior, where's that line? Like, when would you actually do it? Because if it's allowed, if you're supposed, to excommunicate for immoral behavior, why aren't you doing it? I mean, is there a certain line? Is there a threshold? Well, where is that?
That's, and that is, and it really is, priest dependent. Okay. I have seen where priests say, they'll withdraw the spoon because they know that you're living with your girlfriend, but you're not married. I'll see them withdraw the spoon because, they saw them drinking at a bar, So I've seen that on a number of occasions. The message that sends is that you have to do something to be worthy of communion. The way we learned it at the seminary is that, as St. Ignatius says, it is the medicine of immortality. The people that need it are the ones who are sick, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And they're sick with either bodily or spiritual ailments. All right. So what they need is the body and blood. Okay. Now, the answer, so that's why I don't make judgment calls on that, because you don't know what they need at that moment, right? But you know that they need the body and blood, all right? Now, if there are cases where they are flaunting it in the priest's face, that's where you can draw the line, and they come to me in coffee hour and they say, man, oh man, I am like sleeping with how many girlfriends I got? That I sleep with 3 a night. And if you're throwing that in my face, then I have the right to use that and say, okay, this is a behavior now that is totally inappropriate, and we need to talk about this. Okay, so for myself, when it's thrown in the priest's face as a mocking of the Eucharist, that's when you can say, all right,
Right. Aaron asks, hi everyone. First, what is a good way to console someone who has been going through a difficult situation, who prays with all of their heart, and in the end, the prayer is not answered?
Well, Orthodox theology is the prayer is always answered. The problem with humanity is that it's not answered in a lot of times the way that we expect. Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, we don't always get the answer that we want, because if we are thinking about prayer in that way, then God is the ultimate, the guy at the hotel, what do they call concierge? He's the ultimate concierge. I need something.
Oh, when you think about it that way.
Right. Yeah. When you think about it that way, prayer, okay, make you better, make me better. Give me a car, let's hop to it.
He's a valet too.
And he's a valet too. So we have to be very careful about what our prayers are. And what our prayers are is pretty much the first line of the Lord's Prayer. And what is that?
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done. That's our prayer, that thy will be done, not my will. And even Jesus says, it's not my will, it's the will of the Father. So,
mini story before we move on to the next question. I'll just make it quick. It's with St. Paisios.
Mm-hmm.
there was a paralytic, and I'm sure he prayed, God heal me from my paralysis. Moment in time came where there was an opportunity to go to America for some special treatment to possibly be healed for this paralysis. And Saint Paisio, he grabbed him and said, "Come walk with me." And he got up from his chair and walked around. And when they got back to the chair, he couldn't feel his legs anymore. And he goes, "I don't understand. I was just walking before, but why?"
Yeah.
And Saint Paisius says, "You see how easy it is for God to heal you?" But he knew that everyone in the village was taking care of this paralyzed man.
Oh, okay.
And they were all sort of friends and family, like bringing him food, doing tasks for him, turning him over, and doing all of these wonderful things, which was saving them. And he goes, "Do you know how many are being saved because of you?"
Wow.
Awesome. And it's just like you may not think that your prayers are being answered, but humanity's problem, not in the way that
I wanted.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I
awesome.
thought it was.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah. I mean that makes sense.
How Enrique dos Santos asks, "Good evening and blessings from Teresópolis, RJ, Brazil."
From Brazil. Yes.
Yep. Happy feast of Saint Athanasius. Yep. Logan Blackwood. Good morning all from the exceptionally morning of mornings at 12:03 a.m. in snowy Yorkshire. Can you tell me about the church's stance on how evolution supposedly contradicts the Bible?
Well, we don't have a well, okay, so
contradicts the Bible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and you've heard this, you've heard me say this before, and even in For the Life of the World, a book that you've seen me take down from the shelf a couple of times before. I'm not getting up here. You notice that, okay? We believe in post-evolution, meaning that when God created animals, plants, us, okay, we all, plants, animals, people, can go through an evolutionary cycle, right? We see a lot of animals adapt to their environment, okay?
Right.
Salamanders came from the sea, they were fish, went out, okay. So we can see that. We can see how plants evolve, and we can see certain things in us that have evolved, all right? So we certainly believe in evolution. What we do not believe in is that our first cause is a primitive being. So we believe that God himself has created specific is it genuses, Genus, not geniuses,
Yeah, genus,
So there's the genus of plant, there's the genus of animal, there's the genus of human. Each one of those are distinct, okay? An animal is much more than a plant, and we are much more than an animal, okay? Because we can contemplate God. We understand our own existence. We understand that salvation is necessary for us. So we have a nous. Right?
Yeah.
We have a nous, okay? So in that sense, we cannot believe, because it makes no sense, that evolution would have taken us from a primitive form to now this form, because they are radically different, okay? Just as animals are radically different from plants. So all we're saying is God is first cause. That's who brings all this into being. After those things are brought into being, then there's evolution that follows from there.
And we did a early Sunday school video about that, creation.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So I think it's just a very small point that the Orthodox Church is making with regards to evolution.
It's also Saint Cyril too, right?
Oh, well, I mean, there's Saint Basil who wrote the Exaimeron.
I'm saying along with Saint Athanasius. Isn't it also the feast day for Saint Cyril too?
Oh, it is?
I don't know. That's what one of the comments were.
What's today? January
18th.
18th.
Well, technically, it's after 5, so it would be the 19th.
Oh, the 19th.
After 5 p.m. in America, should I say.
19th month, the Venerable Father Maggos. Gaius, Paisia, Arsenius, Miletus, the Confessor.
Oh wow, there's a lot. Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
Okay.
all right. So we'll take your word for it. Logan Blackwood asks, also, could you mention the Orthodox position on marijuana and generally all forms of intoxicants unrelated to medical utility?
So anything that alters our state so that it impedes our ability to concentrate and focus on those things that we should, which is a godly life. Okay. So, I don't want to just focus in on marijuana. Okay. Because we treat marijuana the same way we treat alcohol, the same way we treat food. Okay. So, and this is again, and this is in no way saying that the Orthodox Church is endorsing marijuana. We don't endorse any type of drug, but the abuse of any substance that alters our ability to stay focused on God, and that leads to destructive behavior, meaning that we either ignore God or we ignore our family and friends, then the Orthodox Church is going to reject that. And that can happen with alcohol, it can certainly happen with drugs, and it can happen with food and possessions. So we put those into the same category. So that's one thing big thing I like about Orthodoxy, is that we don't make exceptions. Okay, here's the rule for marijuana, but here's the rule for alcohol. It is what it is for across the board.
We have a super chat from Tommy Williams. Does Orthodoxy believe that our spirits, souls instantly gain all knowledge, or do we still learn after death?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's an awesome question. Some will interpret the idea of the many mansions in heaven as symbolism for the fact that there are certain people, like for example, like Elder Paisios, right? Okay, he has certainly elevated himself in terms of knowing God much above what, let's say, you and I are. Okay. So there is a belief that the many mansions in heaven refers to the fact that we will continue to learn, and maybe our teachers will be Paisios, Saint Basil, those people who do have seen that uncreated light. So in that sense, that's one thing that leads us to think that we will continue to learn in heaven. But I haven't seen anything yet that says that, we instantly become brainiacs. Like, hey, okay, I got it now. I mean, we do have eternity, like Terry says. We have eternity, right?
And that will kind of ruin conversation after.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool is that going to be to sit down with Moses and say, okay, I got a bunch of questions.
Yeah, but he probably has a long line. You'll be on a waiting list.
I'll be on a waiting list.
It's all right. It's eternity.
Yeah.
2,000
years for Moses. Oh man.
Aaron asked something easy. Father, of all the Greek myths and stories from ancient times, which is your favorite?
Oh man, I mean, I can't possibly remember all the stories I've heard, but
and you can't go with the most obvious, which is Jesus' resurrection and so forth. You can pick something else.
No, they said myth.
Oh
yeah, Greek myth.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yep.
I think, well, one of my favorites, because I can relate to it, was it Sisyphus that rolled the rock?
Yep.
There's so many times in jobs and stuff like that, and even sometimes in the priesthood where I've got that rock up to the top of the hill, and then all of a sudden I'm like, man, it's all the way at the bottom. I got to start all over again. I'm sure in work you felt like that a couple of times. So that's one of my favorites because it just happens to me, man.
I completely read that wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Whew, yeah.
No, that's not a good...
We almost had to excommunicate demons.
Yeah,
okay.
seriously.
Oh, yeah. See, this is what happens when I'm under the weather.
WS asks, should Orthodox find same-sex couple kissing cringeworthy? Congratulations on the book. It sounds very interesting.
Ah, well, thank you. It'll be available soon. And I don't want to use the word cringeworthy, but we what's the word that I'm looking for? It is certainly not something that we view in a joyful sense. This is not something that brings us joy. Okay. Now, there is something for us, again, as within the religious context of Christianity, that brings us joy to see a husband and a wife embrace one another. Okay, so and that comes from our not only Christian tradition, but that comes from a God-centered tradition. All right. Now, I don't want to use that to say that that's now we're gonna hate gays and this is why you can't come to our church. None of that. We're not talking about any of that.
Well, actually, I think we can expand it because let's be real. Any kind of sexual passion is a passion.
Is a passion.
Is
correct.
a passion. So even if you're heterosexual and you have that sexual passion, it's not like the church will find joy in that either. Meaning for non-married.
Right. Okay. And you're right, because for the Orthodox Church, that is within the confines of the sanctity of marriage.
Right.
Right.
That is supposed to be for the confines of the sanctity.
For the confines of just that couple.
Right.
All right. But then I got to be careful, or the church has to be careful, because then we say, well, okay, if that's how we define it, so are we saying that a gay couple can't have true feelings of love for one another? I don't think that's true. They can. They obviously can have feelings of love for one another. So it's difficult to use that as a definition. That doesn't bring us joy. Any expression of true love brings us joy, right? But how that's expressed right now within the context of the church is reserved for male and female within the confines of marriage.
Let's see. Well, a lot of comments. I'm just going through.
To answer Carol, I don't know if this is in reference to us or somebody else. I'm not gonna read all the comments, but no, we're not on Twitter. We haven't or X as they call it now. I don't know. We didn't really, that didn't really seem like a platform, like those kind of platforms with 140 character conversation pieces. They're not really what we're after at the moment.
And just as a parenthesis to the last question, I kind of a general parenthesis to all of that. I know that there are listeners who are going to be extremely displeased when I don't give straight yes or no answers.
Yeah.
I know that. Yeah. I know that that's out there, but and I'll speak Orthodox specifically. Those people that answer or represent Orthodoxy as a black and white, it's a yes or no. Other than dogmatic statements of faith, who Jesus Christ is, right? Aside, that make these yes or no answers are of a ultra conservative Orthodoxy, which does not represent who the Church of Mercy and Compassion is. So we pride ourselves as Orthodox, I'm using the word pride, we pride ourselves on Orthodox on the fact that we take every situation for its personal characteristics. And then we have to examine and make determinations for each and every case. But people will say, it's either yes or no, but it's not.
It's not, because, I mean, you've said it before, some people will respond better when they're comforted, you know, with the truth, and then some people will respond better if the truth is slapped in their face.
That's true. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
Right. So, you know, if someone's in a down state, you have to comfort them and lift them up. But if they're in a high state, you know, for the good of their soul, you know, you knock them down.
You got to knock them down. Exactly right. Yes. Very good.
Confessor for you, as one of the arguments against Eastern Orthodox theology is that it is static, that it is to say it has experienced stagnation since the last ecumenical council, even the artwork of the icons. Thoughts?
Well, since the last ecumenical council, well,
actually, I've seen some icons that look more modern than since
than some of the older ones. Yeah. I've seen some changes in iconography that especially Greek American icons, those early Greek American icons don't look anything like those ancient icons.
Right.
So that's one way that we've grown. Another way that we've grown is that we have become much more open to hetero-orthodox. For example, my wife, right? Okay, she is not, or when we got married, she was not Orthodox. Okay, I mean, she became Orthodox, but many of the weddings that I do are heterorthodox. That one is Catholic, one is Protestant. Okay, that was forbidden, right? Okay, you know, nobody wanted that. I mean, not nobody, but within the Orthodox Church, you know, priests were like, "Oh no, you got to be Orthodox. You got to be Orthodox," right? So they would force that couple into Orthodoxy. We have grown, okay, and now we accept. You don't have to convert to Orthodoxy to be married in our church, okay? Oh, that's right. She was Orthodox when we got married.
When you first.
Oh, that's right. Because she did. Okay, yeah, that's right. She did convert before we got married. Well, it's been 40 years. Yeah. I mean, I just, you know, I can't remember all these things. So our liturgy. Okay, our liturgy has evolved too.
Yes.
Okay, so there are certain things that were not necessarily done. There's things that I don't want to say that we've added to the liturgy, but there's some things. One of the things I can think of is the great entrance. Before in the ancient church, you know, there was the skevophylakion, and the deacon brought the gifts forward at the beginning of the liturgy. We don't do that anymore. Now we bring them around at a different time. Okay, so I don't think that that's fair to say that Orthodoxy has been stagnant. Is Orthodoxy slow? Oh, without a doubt. I mean, but that's because it's important to really take the time to know whether or not a change should be made. You know, I'm sure in your life, I'm sure in Demos's life, I'm sure in my life, that I have seen and even in myself, the result of a quick decision and its unforeseen consequences, right?
Greek 70s asked, is it adultery if a man marries a divorced woman?
No. Well, I mean, in fact, the fact that the church allows it.
Well, there are stipulations.
Like,
hold on a second. Didn't Jesus say that?
Yeah, he said that. He said that you know, what did he say about? How did he say about divorce? Oh shoot! But that he did not allow divorce. Okay, and we looked up the actual one, but the church, through her economia, has allowed us up to 3 marriages in the church. Okay, Now, the way you have a third marriage is the fact you've been divorced twice, right?
Or widowed.
Or widowed.
Or
Okay.
widowed.
Or widowed. That's true. Or widowed. All right. So in that sense, you can marry someone divorced. They have to be legally divorced, right?
Yeah, through the church and
through the church, and through the politico, the state, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Diane asks, what does Epiphany mean to you? What do you associate it with?
Well, so it's interesting because we have Epiphany and we have Theophany, right?
Yeah. So if we look at the
Look at the Greek,
words,
right?
Right. Epiphany,
Right.
from above.
Right.
Phani is, to be shown. Phanike.
Phanika, that
Right.
it appears,
Right.
right?
Right.
Okay.
And then Theophany, Theo is God, and then Phani is the same, appears.
It appears.
Right.
Okay. So so that's why both are important, because one, God the Father's light, his grace shone down upon his beloved Son. This is my beloved Son, whom I'm well pleased. Okay. So upon him grace was put, right? Light. Okay. Theophany is Jesus Christ is God. So Theo, God has appeared on earth. So both of those, for me, describe are necessary to describe the significance of the event.
Okay. How Enrique asks, concerning confession, a friend of mine confessed, and the priest simply told him to kiss the cross, the stole, and his right hand after he recited the absolution. Is it correct?
I don't do the hand, but I do have them reverence the sign of the priesthood, which is the Petrachili.
Yeah.
Right.
Nick Liadis asks, I have a quick question. When priests petitions in English in the New Calendar Church,
New calendar, that's us, right?
Okay. In the New Calendar Church, in the Old Calendar Church, petitions, why the Greek translation is different, translation for English is different than New Calendar services and Old Calendar service. I think he's asking why is there a difference? I don't know this. Is there a difference between the New Calendar and the Old Calendar
there
petitions?
Can't be, because there's only one liturgy. St. John there is St. Basil, but on Sundays it's St. John Chrysostom's liturgy. The words are the same for both
for
churches.
Greek. But the English, we talked about this last week. Some of the English translations can be slightly different.
Yeah, every English translation is different. Not some, every English translation is different. But hopefully it captures the spirit of and since you're looking, I'll give you let me see the liturgy book there. So while you're looking there.
Diane asks, what does Epiphany mean to you? What do you associate it with?
Yeah, didn't we just answer that question?
Yeah, we
did?
Yep.
We just did that one.
Yep.
Oh. See, Diane, I really wanted to make sure that your question was
answered. Right.
Oh, Diane. Oh. Here's a good one. So, would you marry a Jew and a Christian in your church? He just read the wrong question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's going like this, by the way.
I'm
very out of it.
The Orthodox Church is unique now in that they only allow inter-Christian marriages. We don't even call them mixed marriages anymore. So we specifically, as Orthodox, only allow inter-Christian marriages. So we do not allow interfaith marriages. So the answer to the question is no, we do not.
Okay.
That's funny. So there's an answer where it's a yes or no.
Yeah, right. Always being, well, it's dogmatic.
It's an issue of right.
Okay. So always being Bell. Hello, Father. Could you please give guidance on when it's appropriate and not appropriate to kiss a priest's hand? Should I do it every single time I greet my priest, or only when he offers his hand?
The answer is when he offers his hand. So you don't want to force some priests. Some priests are not comfortable with it. Other priests like it. They're very comfortable with it. But remember, the reason that you're kissing the hand.
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah. I'm just testing. Putting you on the spot.
I don't. Reason you're kissing the hand.
It's the hand that's touched the cup.
Yes, that's right. The hand that has touched the cup of the body and blood.
Yeah. So it's not like the Don, hey, I'm doing you a favor here.
Out of
right?
respect.
I'm the respect for the man. No, it's the hand that's touched the cup. Okay. So in that sense, that's why, normally speaking, you'll see that sometimes people, after they've received communion, they'll either kiss the cup or they'll kiss his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And the other time that's very common is when they receive andidro. So after the andidro, they'll usually kiss the hand. Okay.
WS asks, what do you mean yes or no answers? Doesn't Christ say not to be lukewarm or be spat out and to be one or the other? Isn't that clear?
No, well, okay, that's one thing that Christ said, and we're not lukewarm in our faith, but also Christ says that we are to have love, mercy, and compassion upon our fellow man. He says that too. Okay, and as you so rightly put it, we have to be able to discern as priests when it's appropriate to show that mercy and compassion, and when it's appropriate to say, okay, I have to make a judgment call here, and you have to stop this behavior. All right. So we have to know when we need to be compassionate to people. So he has asked us, Jesus Christ has asked us to love our fellow man. And so we have to look at the fullness of what Christ said and not just pick little pieces of one thing he says or another.
But the dogmatic side of it is yes or no.
The dogmatic side of it, yes, is yes or no. For example, like the one, can I, if I am Jewish, if I am Muslim, if I am Buddhist, can I get married in your church? And the answer is no, you cannot.
Well, what was the context in the Bible? Because I forget, obviously. What was the context where Jesus said, "Let your answers be yes, let them be no. Anything else is."
I see what you're saying.
So maybe the context will help us understand that. Actually, I'll wait.
Yeah, we also.
Yep. Here's a maybe yes or no question while you're looking that up.
Okay.
Are all Christians Jews?
No, we are not. We are because Jews are Jews. That is a specific religion. That's Judaism. Okay, and our Christian heritage comes from that branch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's no denying that. But and you've said it several times. There is neither Greek nor Jew, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we are the fullness of Judaism.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, with the coming of Christ,
we the Gentiles were grafted
onto the vine of
the
Judaism.
vine, right.
But at the same time, Jesus Christ is the Messiah and the Savior that the Jews have been waiting for.
Except that the Jews, after Theophany, I guess, rejected Jesus.
Yeah, right. Some did,
So,
some didn't, but yes, right.
Yep. Okay.
What is it? Matthew 5. I'm just keep looking here.
5. Presbyterian keeps talking about creating Orthodoxy questions answered bingo. So one of the options would definitely be Father every time he gets up.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the other one will be him frantically looking through books.
That's another one. Another one would be the
Every time he slams his
Slams
hands
the
table.
on the table or on the book.
another one could be, we've answered this in a previous video.
Well, yeah, that I mean that happens. But you know what's really interesting is we've been doing this. I think tonight is episode 162. So
Wow,
we're doing this.
man.
Well,
Yeah, but there's a lot of new questions always rolling in.
there isn't a single episode that passes where we don't get brand new questions. But then, and you know, if we get repeats, I mean, we don't expect somebody. Oh, I'm sorry, we answered that in episode 32. You weren't watching.
Yeah.
That would be the lamest thing that we
Yeah.
could possibly do. And he's still looking.
Well, I wanted to see a nice commentary in here from the Orthodox Study Bible, and they go, it's verse 33, so they go 31, 32, 34. So it's the one that they that's okay. We have so many resources. Okay, hit me up with another question while I'm
Okay. Dionysia.
Oh, all right.
I think I know her.
Yeah. Kalispera, Father Angelo. Thank you for the show. When your plan is different from what God's plan is for you, how can you accept that without skepticism? How can you be humble in His will and accept it?
Wow, there's a good question, because that's very difficult. Our human pride.
Well, hold on. I think there's a little more context to this.
Okay.
Because Dimo didn't do a chore. He didn't take out the garbage.
Well, people don't. Most of the audience doesn't know that she's my wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now they do.
Now they do. Now they do. Dimo didn't do a chore, and you know now Dionysia is struggling with it. So how can she be humble in God's will?
Well, she doesn't necessarily have to be humble for that part. If we're going to talk about that particular situation, you know, if that's something that had to be done, okay, then she has a right to expect it. You know, so you can't be, you know, you're not supposed to be humble in everything, right? Now, you're supposed to correct him in a humble manner, right? So rather than say to him, "You stupid oaf," you're supposed to do this, so get it done. Okay, that's not humility.
Yep.
But to say, you know, I appreciate that you have a lot of things on your mind, but you know, remember that each one of us is sharing a duty here in our marriage. So that way you have the Greek idea of making him feel bad, right? Okay, we use guilt. I'm kidding. All right, what we do is
We do.
okay. So not everything requires us to be humble, because Jesus says, right? You have to be something as lambs, but sly as foxes. What is it? I'm looking at
maybe gentle.
the gentle as lambs and
Yeah,
sly as
yeah,
foxes.
I-
Okay,
yeah.
meaning that we have to be able to discern the situation. Okay, so if your kid or your spouse is not doing something that they are supposed to do, it's okay, you know, to say to them, this is something you need to do. You know, we're talking in general, right?
Right,
Okay.
right.
All right. Just like, you know, if there's something around the house that Christina wanted you to do, and then you went off and did something else, right? You know,
Yeah.
and then you never got back around to it.
Yeah.
She might. Okay. So humility is Christina says, "Hey, look, you know, you got to shovel the driveway because I can't get out for work." And then you say, "Okay, I'm gonna get to it." And then you go downstairs, and then all of a sudden, an hour later, when she got to go to work, right? All of a sudden it's not swept out. So if you don't immediately do it, for her to say, "Well, why don't you have the shovel in your hand and go out and do it right now?" Okay, that's not right. Say, you know, you turn around and you say, "Look, let me just take care of some things, 5 minutes, and then I'll do it." Okay, so that's humility. He's got something else to do, but he's going to take care of it. Now, you don't take care of it. Now she has a right to not be humble and say, "Hey, you got to get out there because I'm leaving in 5 minutes." Is that
I wonder if she's listening to that part.
She's
You know.
For the record, I also take out the recycling. but I do. Knowing this viewer, I think she has a different reason for asking this question. So we should ask this specific question.
But the other part of that question is, when your plan is different from what God's plan is for you, how can you accept that without skepticism?
Well, and I'm going to use myself as an example. Okay, there are many times in both my business life and my personal life that I have felt that a certain path was the correct path. And there were obstacles that were put in my way that stopped me from taking that. All right. And there were times when I just forged ahead and said, this is what I'm going to do. And it turned out to be the wrong thing. There are other times when I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to let this go. And it turned out to be the best decision ever. So I can't give you the answer and say you can't be skeptical. But yes, I am skeptical that this is the right thing, but I'm going to let God be God. And I'm going to, and it seems like this is the right decision. You'll know when obstacles are being put in your path. You're trying to do something and something is always getting in your way. All right. That sometimes is God speaking to you and saying, no, this is what the right path is. And that's when we need to stop and say, okay, wait a minute. You know what? I'm really trying to force myself into this situation. Now I need to be humble. Okay. So it's not just about, should I be skeptical if, is this the will of God? Should I do it? You can't put yourself in that kind of pressure. You're a smart, you're a smart person. You're a smart woman. You know what it is that you should do. But what I'm saying is that if you meet constant resistance, that's when you have to stand back and be humble and say, let me rethink this situation. Maybe this is God speaking to me. Does it make sense to you?
Yeah. I think that was a good answer. Dimo, good answer?
For the time being.
For the time being.
All right.
All right. But he needs to take out the trash.
Yeah.
I even
like
sometimes.
I like how I immediately said yeah.
Now I'm gonna get home and she's gonna be asking me what does oath mean. So.
Did you find it?
I'm finding. I'm getting there. All right.
John Revelation 37 asks, I understand the reverent attitude, but why show reverence by kissing the hand or the cup? I don't understand that part. Could it be explained?
It's a tradition. It's not required. It's not salvific. It's something that's done out of respect. Do you have to do it? No. And in fact, I have not a lot, but I have a couple of people who are going through their catechism right now, and they're struggling with kissing the icon. All right, and I tell them, don't worry about it. If you don't kiss the icon, it's not going to affect your salvation. And I try to explain to them what the icon is, and they understand that, but they still struggle with kissing it. And I say, okay, you don't have to kiss it. It's fine. So, what's that? Yeah. So that's what, and so I'll say, okay, when you're in front of the icon, make the sign of the cross.
Yep.
To respect who is the icon's representing. And they're fine with that. They're like, okay, now I get that. But, again, American ideals of humility are tough, and that whole thing of bending down and kissing somebody else's hand. I ain't kissing your hand. Who do you think you are? That's this idea. It's a very, a very American idea of I don't bow before anybody. And we have to understand that we are not bowing before the man. We're bowing before God. But if it makes you uncomfortable, then don't do it.
One other aspect is we also live in a post-COVID world where there's a higher percentage of people being afraid of germs,
okay,
etc. So
right.
Have you seen that as an increase since that time? Have you had more people?
No, same. It's it's gone away. It was there, Okay, and now it's gone away, you know. And then I had other criadas, some old ladies, and nothing stopped them. COVID, nothing. I'm receiving from the cup.
Yep.
I'm kissing the icon. I'm kissing your hand. Nothing stopped them.
Yep.
And you know what? Every single one of them is still alive.
Those old Greek ladies are tough.
Those old Greek ladies are absolutely tough.
Here's a good question. My last name, 7179 asks, why does the Orthodox Church bend and conform to the world instead of leading as an example?
Well, I disagree with that. I in no way see that we are all right. I don't see us conforming to the world. All right. There are, and this is why I say about ultra-Orthodox. There are ultra-Orthodox who say we should have absolutely no discussions with the Pope, who is the Antichrist. Okay. And so when our patriarch actually has a conversation with Pope Benedict, with Pope John Paul, and then with now Pope Francis, right? He is seen as a heretic. You are denying the Orthodox faith. Okay, well, I don't believe that. That's not true. We have always been a church that enters into dialogue. We're not a church that sacrifices our beliefs and our values, but we always believe that communication is important. But an ultra-Orthodox will see that as an abandonment of our faith. There's one example. All right. The other one, let's take divorce. The ultra-Orthodox will say, why are we even allowing divorce, period? Right? Okay. Or they'll say the Orthodox Church has now allowed the introduction of hetero-Orthodox into our community. So we've got people who are Catholics and Protestants who are praying with us, and they're not Orthodox. Is this the kind of church we want to be? So I do not see in any way that we have sacrificed our faith. We are engaging in dialogue. Jesus Christ says, "You are not of the world, but I have left you in the world." And to be in the world means that you got to deal with people, right? And you don't deal with people by calling everybody a heretic.
You got to live in this world.
You got to live in this world.
Samantha asks, Father, will your book be available as an ebook, as it will be easier for international readers to get?
Well, we're doing it through Amazon, so I think, it's all. I have it obviously electronic.
We have a proto version available on our websites. Proto version, like there's snippets, not the whole thing.
Right.
They're available on our website under education. It'll be the first thing. It was like catechumen. I have discussed this with your editor about getting a digital version of the book.
What does he say?
I don't want to speak for him, so I'll have more information about that.
Because it's being submitted to the publisher in e-form.
Yes.
Right. So
we should be able to. But
yes.
I don't quite remember.
But maybe it's just too early to give an answer.
So we'll have that as soon as the book is available, because we have some other people asking about the book, and people like Delfino pointing out how excited they are about your handbook.
Cool. All right.
As we approach the publication, and I still need to take a few pictures for it, if I remember correctly.
Yes, you still need to write for my cover.
As we approach the publication of the book, we will we'll have that information, and we'll try and make it as available to everyone as possible. And one of the things we may want to look at if it comes to our vast international audience is possibly providing it in different languages, and not, that's something we may have to look at in the future.
Wow. Okay.
Did you find the
context? Well, okay. Keep going.
All right. Kristen Reese, Father Bless, discuss Father Confessor versus Spiritual Father.
So a spiritual father can be also your father confessor, but your father confessor is not necessarily your spiritual father. Okay, so
the spiritual father, that doesn't have to be a priest.
No, spiritual father
Right?
typically does have to be.
Oh, it does have to be.
Does have
Okay,
to be,
okay,
right.
okay.
It does have to be a priest. Now, it doesn't have to be your parish priest.
Right,
It can be a
right,
priest monk or
right.
something like that. All right. So if we start with father confessor, all right, this is someone that you go to, just like you would in the Catholic Church, and you confess to that priest in a sacramental manner, and then he decides a particular, after discussion, whether or not there'll be a penance that will be put on. And then after that, he will read the prayers of absolution. All right. So he is performing the sacrament of confession. All right. A spiritual father goes much further, because the spiritual father is there to provide guidance in your life. So he is somebody that you have said that you will be obedient to, and that he will assist you in guiding the path of your life. So there's much more involvement on behalf of a spiritual father, and there's much more guidance given than there would be in just the sacramental act of confession and absolution.
Before we get to the super chat, David Braun comments, "Be wise as serpents, but harmless as doves."
Be wise as serpents, but harmless as doves. Okay, thank you. There we go.
Diane's amazing super chat, "Were not all of Jesus's followers Jews?" Hold on. The centurion guard.
The centurion guard.
Was
okay.
it? He wasn't a Jew.
He was
but
not
is
a Jew.
Is he considered a follower?
Well, he did. Afterwards, he acknowledged him as God.
Yeah.
So I would say yes. I'm trying to think.
The disciples weren't. They were all Jews.
Yeah, Matthew was a tax collector, so he
was a Jew, but he was a tax collector.
He was a tax collector. Let's see. The apostles were. The Samaritan woman was not a Jew, right? She was a Samaritan.
Right.
Okay. So she followed Christ. I'm trying to think of the healings that he did. Lazarus. And no, I think was Lazarus Jewish?
He was a good friend of Jesus.
Yeah, he was a good friend, and I know that let's see, there's one other that I'm thinking of. That that'd be a good research question, but there's two right there: the centurion, the Samaritan woman. And I thought that in Scripture there was discussions that he was having with the Greeks. There was some that were Greek.
Lazarus was Jewish.
Okay, all right. So those are two examples I can think of. So no, I don't think that exclusively his only followers were Jews. The preponderance of them, and because he did say, "I was sent for the lost house I was sent for the house of Israel." Right? He was sent for the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Yes.
So yes, he was primarily preaching to the Jewish nation, but he did say, he gave the command to go forth to all nations.
He definitely inspired others and other Gentiles and so forth. You can even go down to, the thief on the cross next to him was I don't know, I don't remember if he was Jewish. Was he?
I don't think it says, but more than likely I'm guessing that both of them were probably Jewish, right?
But but at the end of the day, his message inspired humanity.
Yeah.
Right. But I think our specific question was, did he have non-Jewish followers? So we're speaking within his 3-year ministry. And so at least so far we got 2 examples.
Okay. Confessor for you. Should we as Orthodox openly and publicly reject any form of ecumenism as heretical, as the theology of Augustinian Catholicism or Lutheran Protestantism is not accepted by the Orthodox Church? Well, I got to question myself. When we're talking ecumenism, are we talking like one single definition, one single context? Or when we say, like, what is exactly ecumenism?
So ecumeni, right? Okay, is the population, right? It's it's the world. Okay, so it's to be in communication with the world. Okay, the ecumeni, the inhabited world. Okay, that's what the ecumeni is. Okay, and to be ecumenical means to be in the world, to have communication with those in the world. All right. The issue, as I mentioned before, is that ultra-Orthodox associate an equal sign with ecumenism and acceptance of what they say, right? What anybody else says, right? So if I'm an ecumenist, I acquiesce to whatever they want, and they put an equal sign there. And that's not true. Jesus had discussions with many people who were antithetical to his lifestyle, but he sat with sinners, right? He sat with tax collectors. He sat with the Samaritans. So if we apply that same, if we apply this same attitude of anti-ecumenism, those would be the first people who would tell Jesus he's a heretic. Look at you, sitting with Samaritans. We're not Samaritans. Don't sit with them. And then he was talking to the. Then he was healing those who were lepers, right? And you're not supposed to be in contact with them. So look what he's doing there. And then now you're sitting in a restaurant having dinner with known prostitutes, right?
or the Romans,
right? They're clearly Gentiles, right? Okay, so they would have told Jesus, you are a heretic. All right, so I don't understand how we cannot be in communication with the world, all right? But again, where it comes from is the fact that ecumenism to them equals acquiescing and giving up our faith. And that's not a fair statement.
Enrique, just completing what I told about my friend's confession, the priest dismissed him without a single word of counseling or comfort. Remember the kissing the ring and prayer of absolution.
Yeah, and
it's as if the person confessed and it just went right to
the absolution, right. And again, I want to be careful here. I don't want to, start talking about what this priest did.
Yeah.
Okay, but what I will say in general is that an essential part of Orthodox confession is also spiritual guidance. It's not enough to hear the sins confessed and then immediately step into absolution if the person doesn't understand why they should be repentant. Okay, then we get into the revolving door. You know what? Hey, you know what? I got a lot of sin baggage, so you got to take it off. You got to take it off me. Do your hocus pocus, and then I got another week that I'm free to sin again. I'll be back next week, so you can take it all. Right.
We have a lot more questions left, so let's try to get through a few more.
Lightning round. Okay.
Lightning round.
W.S. Christ also says you cannot serve two masters. A man who loves God cannot love the evil world. So why does Father say to love the world which is evil? Wait. I don't think you said love the world.
No.
Love the people in the world.
Yeah, love thy neighbor, he said. Okay.
Right.
And again, he said, I did not take you out of the world. You are in the world. He said, okay, but I thought in the opposite he spoke saying, that don't love the world. Okay?
Yeah.
Because the world being material possessions,
right.
those things. Right.
Diane, I'll ask, to be a Christian, must I be obedient?
Yes, absolutely. You must be obedient to the church to be a Christian. Yes, the answer
We're
is
getting
yes.
a lot of yes or no.
Well, okay, you wanted a lightning round,
But
right?
it does lead to something that God says right now, that Jesus never gave straight yes or no answers.
Oh, that's a great point. You know,
Yeah, not to compare you to Jesus.
yeah, thank you. But
He gave
you
a lot
gotta
of
learn
parables.
from the great teacher, right? You
Right.
gotta learn from the great teacher. Yeah, that's a
Well, he
that's
gave a
great
lot of
point.
he gave a lot of parables.
He
right?
did.
So here's something in regards to the answering the obedient question. Jesus was obedient to his Father's will, even in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Yes, right.
So if Jesus was obedient, then we must also.
But Jesus' actions in the garden allows us to have fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said, if you can take this cup from me. And that's our cry, right? I don't want to do this. But we have to conquer our fear, and then we have to do God's will. So there's nothing wrong with the fact that we are skeptical. We approach it with trepidation. We are scared. There's nothing wrong with that. We have that in Jesus. All right. But he conquered those passions, and
Board Bill asks, I'm going off memory, but why does St. John of Damascus say angels can't repent because they don't have material bodies? Though I'm not sure he actually said this, just going from memory.
and who's that? St. John Damascus?
Yeah.
Angels can't repent because they don't have.
Well, don't they have a greater will than ours? So.
Well, I don't know if they have a greater will, but they certainly have closer proximity to God. So they are much more aware of the uncreated light. I mean, they know what that is, and repentance doesn't involve the body. It is. I mean, yes, it does. I mean, we say that
we have to. Yeah, we need a body to repent.
But
right.
It comes from the mind too. You know, right? I have to understand my repentance.
Okay. He also asks, what is Orthodox teaching on angels? I've heard some say that they are outside of time. Is that true? And if so, how are they able to choose to obey God or rebel with Satan?
Because the how is like us. They have free will. Okay, and certainly one angel used that will improperly, and he took angels with him, right? Okay, so it wasn't just Satan. I mean, he took angels with him. So just as we can abuse our free will, so some angels have abused their free will.
And one last question. I'll take a stab at it.
Okay.
Hits close to home. Why do the laity use a monotone manner of speaking when reading something like the Psalms during the liturgy? Because I'm not skilled enough to have anything other than monotone. Yeah.
Well, that's the farthest he's ever had to go for a book, ladies and gentlemen.
There is a canon of the church that specifically states that you shall not sing the Psalms. That meaning that you're not supposed to show off. And I know that.
Okay.
So you're not supposed to create a performance.
Yeah.
Okay. So they don't say monotone, but what they say, the singing of the Psalms shall not be done. And I just have to, okay, where is that? But.
But aren't a lot of chanters praised for their performative nature?
Yeah, and that's how we got into the problem that we're at right now, is because they became prideful, right? They made it into something that is something
beyond.
Yeah, beyond. Look at me. Look how good I am. And so when people wonder why we don't have congregational singing, because everybody's scared to death, because nobody can sing the hymns, right?
I think this is the first time I've seen you with 4 books piled up.
Four books piled upon the All right. I'm not going to find it by the end of the show, but I will find it because, like I said, there was specifically a canon that spoke and said, "Do not sing the Psalms." I just got to find out where that is. Okay, what else we got? We got anything on? Or we?
There's at least one more.
Which one?
Confessor for you. I think it's not a
Oh,
question, but the
okay. Oh, there it is.
I
I
think
see
it's
it.
interesting.
Angels, Confessor for you comments. Angels did exist and were created outside of time and had access to God's throne. That's why their judgment was instantaneous. Even Jesus said, "I saw Satan fall from heaven like a bolt of lightning."
Okay, all right.
And then
Steve Lenoris asks, how does the priest remember everything to do in liturgy?
Because I've got my book with me.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
and
if you watch the live streams, you'll
Yeah.
see.
Sometimes he forgets and he refers back to the book.
Yeah, and you know, and sometimes I lose my place, and then all of a sudden I'm like 4 petitions down, and then the choir is like.
That happened last time with me when I was reading the creed. Completely lost where I was. I think my daughter was,
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
And creed and Lord's Prayer is a rhythm for me. If I fall out of that rhythm, man, I am lost. Have you ever tried to just do the Lord's Prayer from the middle? I mean, I can't. I just got to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, I have to ask because some people have commented during the live streams that they're a little surprised to see beyond the Gospels that many books on the altar. Is that something that's frowned upon, or?
No, I mean, if they serve a purpose, they should be there. Okay. Like the bishop doesn't like the phone on the altar. The phone should not be on the altar. But for me, I have the liturgy book, and then I have the big red book that tells me what the hymns are going to be, and then I have the iPad because that has ages on it.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So those are typically the 3, and then sometimes I have the Octoikos up there because it has the hymns of the day in Greek, so that I'll know them, or one of them has it in English. So if the choir can't do it and I need to do it, I have the books handy there. So no, there's no restriction on what books can be on the altar, but the restriction is when the service is finished, the altar is clean. It's not a library. It's not a shelf. The altar should be clean.
All right, and I think that's it. That was
all right.
That was a lot.
That was a lot.
That was a lot of questions.
That was quite the session. And as usual, some questions were left unanswered that I got to do a little bit more research on. But hey, Sam, I appreciate you.
Thank you,
I
Father.
appreciate you being here, and I like the fact that you're one of my star star presenters because you know your faith. So you're able to answer some of these questions,
At least trying to.
And have good follow-ups.
Yeah,
and you have good follow-up, and so I've got to, I'm here, and I'm doing party line. Okay, so there's an expectation that I'm going to be able to answer questions, but I think it's much more exciting to have a layperson that's here who is also able to speak about his or her Orthodox faith. So good job, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm just, my cold medicine didn't prevent me from having crazy, sentences, other than this one apparently. But thank you all for your well wishes.
So next week is going to be the continuing saga of, we have to know, does Demos now take out the trash?
Yeah.
Right?
I always
continuing
take out the trash.
Yeah.
I'm that I got like 17 apologies from my wife. I'm not a garbage man, but I always try to clean up after myself.
Hey, we are whatever our wives tell us we are. Right?
Oh.
I'm not that far along yet.
Oh, you're not that far along.
Not that far along.
All right. Well, I got a few years on you guys. Okay, so
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
though.
So I don't know. You probably haven't. Have you heard the Man song?
No.
It's like a pretty old song. After the show is over, I'll play it for you. But the man song is all about that, that the wife rules, but the man thinks that he's in charge. I'll play the song.
Well,
for
it's
you.
like the wife is the neck, turns the head.
Turns the head.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right. Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know. My wife refers to me as her king, so maybe I'm a very, very lucky man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
she's
pretty
my
lucky.
queen.
There you go.
There
Good
we
job.
go. There we go.
Hey, so again, thanks for a great show tonight, and Presbytero will be back next week. I know that we'll be seeing you again, Sam. So I really am appreciative that Christina lets you take out the time. I mean, because I know you get home late, and I know you got two kids. Chronia Pola in advance.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And again, Christina, thank you very much for letting us borrow your husband for these shows. We think that we're doing a really good thing here, and we're very appreciative. Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.